Hello, welcome to this episode of the Jo Yoga Life Diaries. So you probably know that I have the online library of Kundalini Connections, which is a library of on-demand yoga, meditation, rituals, because I found that it's difficult to try and squeeze in your self-care practice and your yoga practice around your busy life. So you need to have something on demand and easily accessible, which is exactly what that is. But what I want to address today is, if you've never done Kundalini Yoga, what is it? And how does it differ from more widely known styles of yoga, such as Hatha, which is the one we tend to all know with warrior pose and tree pose, etc. And there's vinyasas that flow, and Iyengar and Bikram and all these other styles of yoga. So how does Kundalini differ? Well, it's incredibly old to start for a beginner. It was mentioned, the Kundalini energy was mentioned back in the Vedics, which were about 1000 BC, I think they date from. It's just massively old. So we're talking at least 3000 years. So very, very old. The Kundalini energy is something that yoga works on regardless of what style you're doing. And it's an energy that everybody has. And it lives at the base of the spine. And it comes from the word kundal, the Sanskrit word kundal, which means circular. So a lot of time this energy is visualized by a coiled snake living at the base of your spine. And this energy is dormant. It is completely still. And what wakes it up can be traumatic situations or ecstatic situations, and it's your life force. And if ever you experience that energy waking up, it's personally, I haven't had that yet, but what I have experienced is moments of ecstatic joy and pleasure and happiness, and that is when your Kundalini is awakened. So it might not be awake all the time, but it is there and it is awakened. So when you orgasm, that's your Kundalini energy really, really awake and alive. So if you think that kind of that buzz feeling, that tingle feeling, it just makes you feel alive, and everything's more vibrant, and you can see clearly and think clearly when you're connected with your Kundalini energy, and it is more awake. Now, as I say, all yogas work on waking up this life force and waking up this Kundalini energy, but Kundalini Yoga is different because of the way in which it gets you to this higher state of consciousness so much quicker. Now, I'm going to address the Yoga Bhajan, the elephant in the room. He is a Sikh man who brought Kundalini Yoga to the West back in the late 60s. And he created a huge following because it gave people who do Kundalini Yoga, it gives you this kind of high, this blissful feeling that you could get from drugs, but it does it naturally. So when he came over in the late 60s, in the time of all the psychedelia and the drugs and things, he got a big following because he could give people this high. He taught them how to feel this way without using any kind of narcotics or damaging the body. However, when I addressed the Yogi Bhajan issue, I don't relate to him at all anymore. It came out that he was sexually abusing people, and so any kind of, I don't use his quotes. I am away from his teachings now. I don't follow him as somebody because he was human, he was fallible, and he clearly took his position of power for granted and abused it, and therefore I don't relate to him anymore. But what I do relate to is the science that backs up Kundalini Yoga and the way it makes me feel when I practice it. And there is no denying that Kundalini Yoga and the kriyas and the practices that he shared work and are good for you and make you feel amazing. And if you're on a spiritual journey, they are perfect for you. So even though I don't relate to him personally as somebody I admire anymore, I do relate very closely with the style of yoga that he brought over from India. Actually, I think he was from Pakistan himself. But anyway, yeah. So he brought it over to the West. And Kundalini Yoga works very much on the chakras and the chakra energy. And it is a very spiritual practice. It's much more, all yoga, you can go to a gym and do a yoga class, a power yoga that's all about fitness. For me, yoga is a very deep spiritual practice, and Kundalini Yoga is even more spiritual, is probably the most spiritual. The movements in Kundalini Yoga are not the main focus, whereas in Vinyasa and Flow Yoga, it's about the posture, it's about the asana, it's about how the body looks and creating great body shapes, and that's the spiritual side of it. Whereas in Kundalini Yoga, they are important, there are movements, but they're not the main focus. And you do repetitive movements, because it's the repetitiveness that creates that chemical change in the body. It's much more of a mind work, a bit like yin yoga actually. Yin yoga, I find, because you're more stationary and sedentary in the postures, it becomes more a mind challenge than a physical challenge. And that Kundalini is actually both. If you're doing some of the arm work, believe me, it's a serious physical challenge, but you need your mind to get you through that physical challenge. So there's a lot of science-backed benefits for Kundalini Yoga. For a start, it 100% relieves stress and anxiety from the body and from the mind. There was a study in 2017 where the people who practiced Kundalini Yoga felt less stress and anxiety immediately, but then also they continued the Kundalini Yoga over 3 months and experienced vast drops in their anxiety and stress levels. And again, there was a study in 2018 where the practitioners did yoga for about 8 weeks, and it considerably lowered their stress levels and blood pressure. So, it's hugely relaxing. It's a hugely relaxing practice. But what it can also do is make you quite emotional. So if you're releasing those emotions from your body, that's also going to make you feel, that release is out. Those emotions are not meant to be held. They're meant to pass through the body. It improves your cognitive function. And I love this. The work that it does on the brain is just absolutely brilliant. And I'm actually going to read this straight from a website that I found. It's healthline.com. And in a controlled trial, they studied 81 participants that had a mild cognitive impairment, and they were put randomly into 2 groups, and one of the group practiced Kundalini Yoga and the other group did some sort of memory enhancement training. And this was for 12 weeks they did this, and both groups showed improvements, but the Kundalini group showed short and long-term improvements in their executive functioning. So that includes their problem solving, their cognitive flexibility, and their reasoning skills as well. So, and also those that did Kundalini Yoga had fewer symptoms of depression at the end of the study. So that just goes to show, I find that hugely brilliant. And as I say, I certainly noticed that if I need a bit of mental clarity, a good strong ego eradicator is fantastically beneficial. Practicing Kundalini Yoga also will help with positive body image, because it works on the chakras, it works on a lot of heart opening and a lot of self-love. And so just by practicing that, you're going to experience more self-love and more self-acceptance. Your body is incredible things, and when you're doing a Kundalini Yoga practice, you might well be doing a pose that you've never done before for longer than you'll ever have thought to do before. I remember the first time I did a meditation with a chant, with a mantra, and I suddenly realized I'd been there for 11 minutes and I'd never meditated that long before. I did a class at a festival and we just did a 5-minute self-care Kriya breath, and the woman came up to me after, she was you only hold it for about 5 minutes, and she said, I can't believe how long we meditated for. And I said, I know. And it goes, so you get into that meditative state that you might have been looking for years before, and then you're just there and you don't realize that you're there, but you're there. And it really is a beautiful, beautiful moment. And when you recognize that you can achieve these things and do these things, you have this great love for yourself, this great self-love, and you lose weight. You can lose weight. You may or may not. That's not the main focus, but it does happen. You become more aware of what you're eating. You become more, your self-awareness really, really grows and develops. And through that, so does your self-care. So everything in your life improves. It's as simple as that. Everything in your life improves. And it's an experiential yoga. So I always say, if you've never done it or ever, just have a go and experience it and just see what you feel and what you notice. Russell Brand does Kundalini Yoga, and he calls it the crack cocaine of the yoga world, because it gets you to this higher state of consciousness, this blissful feeling quicker than anything else. And that's why I love it so much. And after many years of hunting and looking for that high that yoga people were talking about, I suddenly was like, that's it. That's what people talk about. That's why people go to their mats every day. And so I invite you to try it, to give it a try. On my platform, there is a 7-day free trial, so you can give it a go and see what you think. And there are practices of 20 minutes, of 40 minutes, of 60 minutes. You can even just do a 3-minute little breath practice if necessary. So Kundalini Yoga, for me, has changed my life. Yes, it's become my job. But I've also got a community of people when we go to the Great British Kundalini Yoga Festival, and there's all these other people there who are living a similar life to you and understand the spiritual side of life the way you do. It's just wonderful to be with your crowd and to be with your community, and that's why I love to share this with you today. So if you've not tried it, give it a go. If you know Kundalini Yoga really well, share with me your great aha moments, what you love about it, because I love to spark these conversations. And I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for listening today. If anything resonated or you feel inspired to, please share, as that is how we spread the healing. To learn more about me, my teachings, or any of the Jo Yoga programs, go to www.joyogauk.co.uk, and I'll see you next time. Bye.